Allah will not give you a burden that you cannot carry. Will not. Is there for you. Have faith in the country. Have faith in yourself.
President Tinubu enjoins Nigerians to contribute their quota to growth and prosperity of Nigeria.
Sultan of Sokoto calls on Nigerian leaders to be patriotic and work towards surmounting the country's challenges.
Federal government cautions against possible outbreak of anthrax in Nigeria.
And Good Morning Nigeria today discusses flood control and management in Nigeria.
What ought to be showers of blessings on Friday, 23rd of June, again turned many homes into pandemonium at the Trademore Estate, Abuja, as over 100 houses were submerged and one person confirmed dead. The road connecting the estate to the Abuja International Airport Road also became impassable as a result of the volume of rain.
Well, it appears, Kyria, that the issue of flooding, particularly in that part of the Federal Capital Territory, is becoming an annual ritual and almost an insurmountable challenge. Now, residents at the Trademore Estate claim that they witnessed such flooding annually, adding that last year's experience was the worst in the last decade, as several fatalities were recorded. In response, some 30 illegal structures on the floodplains were demolished to prevent future occurrences.
Not only that, Kingsley, the nation also witnessed the massive flooding that overran Ajokuta-Ganaja-Lokoja Road in Lokoja, the capital of Kogi State, last year, with many casualties and losses running into millions of naira. Now, 6 months after the incident, not much has been heard about flood control in the country.
Nigeria battled the worst floods last year, 2022, with over 300 persons killed, farmlands destroyed, and worsening food supply chain, and many more persons, of course, were displaced, with injuries ramping up to about 500 persons. Now, search and rescue teams from the National Emergency Management Agency, the Fire Service, and other organizations, of course, were mobilized to provide support to persons who were in desperate need for assistance during last year's floods.
Yes, and meanwhile, investigations reveal that flooding in Nigeria are generally attributed to both natural and human causes. Natural causes come in the form of heavy rain or torrential rains, as the case may be, ocean storms and tidal waves, usually along the coast or coastal flooding in low-lying belts of mangrove and freshwater swamps along the coast.
Well, land use activities, which include urbanization, increased runoff volume and rates, occupation of floodplains, obstruction of flows, as well as poor structural flood control measures, such as embankments in the upstream, often would result in the kinds of problems that we are seeing now. Debris building up in rivers, restriction of waterways, as well as the clogging of various paths for the water to flow through. And the result, of course, is flooding.
Yes. So is flood control and management actually an insurmountable task for a nation like Nigeria? What can be done to minimize the devastation impact of flooding in the country? These more and more questions, the issues we shall be raising this morning, and with our guests that we're going to be bringing into for conversation on the program. And that reminds me, when we talk about the Trademore Estate in question, which is just here in Abuja, we talked about the previous year's experience in the same location. And what did they do in between, between then and now? Because if perhaps measures were taken, adequate measures were taken, they could have prevented to a reasonable extent, prevented the volume of water that found its way into Treatmore. The place is a slope, no doubt about that. But again, that also brings about the question of why was an estate located there in the first place?
Absolutely. If it's a valley or if it's a floodplain, who gave approval for the location of such an estate? In the past, we heard about Lokogoma, but we haven't heard that. We also heard about Galadimawa. All these are in the capital city here in Abuja. Now, other parts of the country are also pounded at this time by heavy rains. In Edo State, for instance, the rains have been pouring, ceaseless, for several days on. And the same we have with other coastal locations such as Lagos. And the forecast will include the fact that in the middle belt and also that's the north central and the northern parts of the country, we should be expecting more rain. And what that means, of course, is that we have to be up and running with our flood control and management measures.
Exactly. And all these were predicted. It's not as if we're not knowing, we're just knowing about it.
Unfortunately, we often wait for disaster to strike before people start running helter-skelter. We'll have all of that in our conversation segment on Good Morning Nigeria today, as Kirian earlier indicated. I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I thank you for being with us for today's episode of the program. It's still the Salah celebration, and once again, Eid Mubarak to our viewers all around the world.
Barakat Salah once again.
So we join our colleague now, Dennis Adegunloye, who will give us the highlights of the morning news, and thereafter we take our business and newspaper review. Dennis, good morning.
Good morning, Kingsley, and good morning, Kirian. Good morning, Nigerians, and from me, Barakat Salah also. President Bola Tinubu has joined the congregation at the Dodam Barracks Eid Prayer Ground, Lagos State, in celebration of Eid el-Kabir. The president enjoined Nigerians to have faith and be ready to contribute to their quota of the sacrifice needed for the growth and prosperity of the country.
To make the sacrifices. And that is clear. If we have to. But Allah will not give you a burden that you cannot carry. Will not. It's there for you. Have faith in the country. Have faith in yourself. Believing that you, as a citizen of this country, you must join hands. No religious identity, no tribal identity. Live with one another in joy and prosperity. It will come. Nigeria will see peace, stability, and God will grant peace to those of us who are in the war front. We spare their life, we give them victory. Those in the hospitals, we give them succor and peace, and keep them in good health.
Meanwhile, Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima is in Borno State to celebrate the Eid el-Kabir festival. The Vice President paid homage to the Shehu of Borno, Abubakar Ibn Garbai el-Kanemi.
We convey to him the best wishes from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and to assure him that all the issues he has raised will be vigorously addressed, especially the issue of Dikwa Gamborungala road will certainly be addressed. That of youth unemployment, youth restlessness will also be addressed. By and large, I'm here to reassure him of the maximum support of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to all the challenges confronting us as a society and as a people.
And the Sultan of Sokoto, Mohammed Sa'ad Abubakar, has called on Nigeria's leaders to, at all levels, to be patriotic and work towards surmounting the numerous challenges of the country. He was speaking while delivering his Eid al-Kabir message at his palace shortly after the 2 Rakat prayers at the Sokoto Central Eid ground.
We are here to celebrate with our Muslim brothers, and it's a good day for everybody. The call for us is, let us be true to the principles of our religion.
I call on all fellow Nigerians to support, the new government and give it their best so that our country will continue to prosper.
The Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development and the National One Health Coordinating Unit have issued a health caution against possible outbreak of anthrax in Nigeria. A statement jointly signed by the Chief Veterinary Officer of Nigeria, Federal Ministry of Agriculture, Dr. Kolumba Vakuru, and the Director General, Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Dr. Ifedayo Adetifa, confirmed an outbreak of anthrax both in humans and animals by the Ghana Health Service, and stated that due to Nigeria's close relationship with the West African nation, there was a high risk of importation of the disease. It added that the federal government has put in place measures including establishment of a national anthrax technical working group and dissemination of information to notify veterinarians, cattle rearers and the public of the outbreak in the north region of Ghana. The statement advises Nigerians on precautions to reduce the potential risk of infection and spread of anthrax to, among others, include avoiding all non-essential travel to the northern region of Ghana, careful observation of rams or cattle to be slaughtered for the festive period, and not to slaughter animals at home, rather make use of abattoirs or slaughter slabs. Anthrax is a severe disease caused by the bacteria Bacillus anthracis, which can affect both humans and animals, including wild animals and livestock such as cows, pigs, camels, sheep, and goats. The new petroleum pump price, now subject to market forces, has come to stay. As motorists contend with this reality, conserving fuel has become a priority for most.
Initially, I used to fill the tank confidently with 12,000 naira, but right now, I just bought for 20,000 and it didn't even get to half tank. It's very difficult.
I sat in my car, they were filling my tank. When the attendant told me, okay, your money is 42,500. With your injector cleaner 25, that means you have 45,000 to pay. I said, what? 45,000?
I use my car now to my office, to my house, to the church, and back home.
You now need to maintain your vehicles properly so that the engine will run efficiently.
The federal government is soliciting more support from the European Union in its quest to consolidate democratic principles with regards to the electoral processes. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, made the appeal while receiving the European Union Election Observation Mission delegation.
6 priority recommendations contained in the report. In maybe 2 years' time, the European Union will deploy a follow-up mission to engage with the Nigerian authorities on implementation of those recommendations. This is a process which we have done not just in Nigeria, but in all of the jurisdictions where we've been fortunate enough to receive an invitation to carry out.
This report has just been given to me, so I don't know the recommendations. But I want to believe, and strongly too, that you are suggesting in this report that we improve on what took place. And the new regime is prepared to make a difference in the way governance is carried out in this country.
And that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues after this break with Kingsley and Kieran. Do stay with us.
If you want to become something, become a child again. Why be a patient? If you must worry, then worry about winning. Why worry about germs? When you come home, bring tales and stories. Why bring in germs?
Shield your families from germs. When Dettol is a part of every household bucket, then you and your family can stay protected from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Everyday use of Dettol keeps my loved ones protected.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Our administration will govern you only on your behalf, but never rule over you. We shall consult and dialogue, but never dictate. We shall reach out to all, but never put down a single person for holding views contrary to our own.
If you want to become something, become a child again. Why be a patient? If you must worry, then worry about winning. Why worry about germs? When you come home, bring tales and stories. Why bring in germs?
Shield your families from germs. When Dettol is a part of every household bucket, then you and your family can stay protected from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Everyday use of Dettol keeps my loved ones protected.
Your skill is key to your professional growth in the competitive broadcast media industry. Take advantage of the following programs specially packaged by NTA Television College Jos to upgrade your skill. Drama Production Workshop, date 3rd July to 21st July 2023, 3 weeks. Intermediate Online News Reporting Skills, date 24th July to 11th August 2023, 3 weeks. The course fee for the 2-week course is 120,000 Naira, while the fee for the 3-week course is 150,000 Naira only, accommodation inclusive. All courses will hold at NTA Television College near Old Government House, Rayfield, Jos. For further inquiries, please call 0803-079-5335 or 0806-98 080807. NTA Television College Jos, training you to be the best you want to be. Registrar Announcer.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. It's time for business news. With the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund lauding President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's reforms that will hopefully turn the fortunes of the economy around. Our correspondent, Vivian Ezeadife, has details in her package.
The World Bank estimates that Nigeria will save 3.9 trillion naira in 2023, equivalent to 1.6% of GDP, following petrol subsidy removal and foreign exchange unification move. It further remarks that the recent development undertaken by the president is historic as it sets the stage for a new upward investment, growth and development trajectory that will alleviate inflationary pressures despite high cost of petrol. The World Bank also says Nigeria can leverage on these reforms to optimize its full potential and highlights the needs to provide some timely, temporary and targeted assistance as the subsidy removal is preventing further deterioration. And savings from the subsidy can also be used for other pro-poor service delivery such as health, education and infrastructure. In another development, stakeholders in the power sector have been reacting to the pronouncement by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to improve power supply by making it accessible and affordable to Nigerians and the subsequent signing of the electricity bill into law.
Private people are better in doing business, but the decisions in implementing privatization sector is being carried out by only government institutions without giving the non-state actors and consumers opportunity.
Disco are equally a private endeavor like them. They should work out a modality that they can be partners in progress.
They enjoin subnational governments and private sector to invest in the power sector. With business, Vivian Ezeadife.
Yeah, many thanks, Vivian, for the business package. And next for us is what the papers are saying.
Newspaper reviewer Chukwudi Okoli Ogbaja is right here with us in the studios for today's review session. Chukwudi, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, and I want to say that the roads are free. It took me practically just 35 minutes to get here. Kirian, how are you doing?
I'm good. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at the window pages of the papers and the stories, of course, that are common to the papers. The lead story focuses essentially on the Eid celebrations and the messages from various leaders. But above the nameplate of the New Telegraph, we have the following headlines. Fabrics and fake human hair top Nigeria's 1.4 trillion naira import from China. Again, fabrics and fake human hair top Nigeria's 1.4 trillion naira imports from China. Financial Times, Nigeria's oil and gas industry in bad shape. That's a claim on page 8. 10th Senate, Akpabio won free, fair and square. That's according to Kalu. Says we have to work with him as one Senate. I'm only interested in Olubadan crown. That's according to Ladoja. That's the former governor of Oyo State. Says there's hope for new Nigeria. And gunmen abduct 8 MRS staff in Lagos. Canada to welcome more healthcare workers. UI Imam to Tinubu, don't rely on FBS data, assess Nigeria yourself. Week-long stay-at-home order wasn't issued by IPOB, says spokesman. Protocol palaver, Governor Adeleke and Senator clash at Eid grounds. Governor lives in anger over alleged assassination attempt. Basiru sat on governor's reserved position and refused to leave. That's according to the governor's aide. I didn't see governor. I didn't know he'd observed the prayer. That's according to Basiru, who, of course, was a senator in the 9th Assembly. Tunde Badmus apologizes to Adeleke. Tinubu's cabinet, Omo Agege Ojogbo in supremacy battle. Sanwo-Olu hosts Tinubu and governors today in Lagos. Ebonyi, don't celebrate yet. Nwifuru, still our member. PDP tells APC. And budget, federal government halts allocations to professional bodies. Decision hinged on presidential directive. Medical and teachers' bodies orders to survive on levies. And study, new vaccine raises hope to curb deaths from tuberculosis. Kirian.
Yeah. Okay, now let's turn to the leadership newspaper. Above the nameplate of the paper, we have Abbas loyalists scramble for 15 juicy committees. Insecurity, COS celebrate troops for loyalty and sacrifice. The two stories on page 7 and 6. And now the lead story says, despite shrinking income, Muslims celebrate Salah in style. It's also on page 7. Sultan to political leaders, shed your extravagant lifestyle for Nigeria's sake. We must make necessary sacrifices for the nation. That's Tinubu. And eschew religious tribal identity. All that on page 4 of the leadership newspaper. Now, 40 Nigerians regain freedom from Libyan detention. On page 8, Idai Kabir, APC, PDP urge prayers for Nigeria. Federal government to stop funding professional bodies and councils in 2024. All that on page 24. All right, and well, the pictorials there, we have Idai Kabir celebrations in different parts of the country. Let's bring in Chukwudi at this moment. Chukwudi,
Thank you,
what is
Kyrian.
trending for you today?
Oh, well,
apart from Salah celebration and, of course, the holiday the Nigerians have been enjoying since yesterday.
Eid al-Mubarak to our Muslim brothers and sisters. Well, Kingsley has said that on our behalf, but you don't get tired of wishing your neighbor well. There's this old man in my village. He said, "It shall not be well with you till you start wishing your neighbor well." He's not a Christian, he's not a Muslim, but they believed in certain things, good neighborliness. Okay, Kingsley started with fabrics, fake human hair, top Nigeria's 1.4 trillion naira import from China. And I ask, why not agricultural machinery? Why not computers? Was it the president asking us to share, to shed what is it? Extravagant lifestyle?
No, it's the Sultan of
Sokoto. It's the Sultan of Sokoto, not the president. The man is not talking into emptiness. The man is talking into, you see, every day we come here, we talk about attitude. I will not get tired of talking attitude. Nigeria has no problem. The problems created by us were created by us. The problems affecting us were created by us. The things that unite us were created by God. So it is always the human tendency to thwart or distort or make dysfunctional what nature has provided as the path to tread. So why fabrics, fake human hair, would top Nigeria's 1.4 trillion naira import from China beats me hollow. You ask, fake human hair becomes a priority for us? The values of a people. You look at Japanese today, they tell you how they behave. You find out that there is deliberate input, almost regimentation, that makes Japanese children behave the way they do. Respect is number one. It's practically taught. When I say teach thinking in schools, they put it in the curriculum. I find Nigerians worrying, not thinking. I know what I'm talking about. People say we are old-fashioned when we talk like this and all that. But till we do all these things, reorientate us. I'm tired of asking, where is the National Orientation Agency? Why is the China fabric, it should be China, that should be the adjective, China fabric, preferable to what comes from Lagos or Aba? It is a mentality that is not helping us appreciate our own here. We need to do a turnaround. We need to become people who appreciate what we have. There's a show you put on that makes you actually stand out in a crowd. And anyway, these days, ladies have told you that it is not really the fabric you put on, but what you ask your tailor to design. So we are becoming creative ourselves. At the end of the day, what's important to Chukwudi is, are you engaging action that will help us drop the monstrous flight of money into other countries at the expense of Nigeria and Nigerians? Fake human hair. I don't want ladies to waylay me when I leave this place, because I'm one of those who will tell you that if I see somebody on television and he's very dark, he's a dark African woman. There's a lady I call dark African woman when I walk into these studios. Please, I'm not going to name her. I'm proud of her. We mentioned Kwege Agri the other time. I'm proud of my Africanness. And he said, he who is not proud of his Africanness is not fit to live. I talked about Nollywood. When I see somebody who is very dark on Nollywood today, I ask, is she a Ghanaian? We are some of those who were raised in the village. We think like village people, but we tell you that maybe if you listen to some of the things we say, life could become a bit more natural for you and less expensive. So why would fake hair and fabrics stop our importation from China? It means that the local industry at home is not being encouraged enough. Lagos and Aba are doing well, but we can do better. And the cotton we knew the North for, we can actually bolster production again if we think Nigeria. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, some of us are getting tired of talking about local production, homegrown technology, and what have you. The fake hair you're talking about, you know, are just rubber products, right, that can happen here. I mean, if anybody takes on that, but it's not for government to do that. This importation you're talking about is a private sector driven in the first place. I'm not sure Nigeria is spending money.
Driving it all into Nigeria, our dear old Nigeria.
Well, listen, you know, there's this saying, you know, that when the preferable is not available, the available becomes preferable. So if you do not have what people are demanding and they can source it elsewhere and you brand it fake and what have you, fine. But then somebody is in business. So you don't need China to tell us that we should localize production and do things by ourselves.
That's a good one.
Right. India locked up some years ago, over 40 years ago. I used to have a friend, you know, who was a student in India then, in the mid-80s. Right. When he comes back to Nigeria on holiday, he will buy creams, hair creams and all of that, you know, pack it in one particular, in a big bag. You know, he said, look, if I return to India, I'll sell to fellow students on campus, right? Because you can't buy it in any Indian market because they don't allow importation of creams, hair cream, body cream, and what have you. So, but now go to India, there are manufacturers of all manner of creams and all of that. That has grown over the years. If you don't start it, you can never get at it. We will always be citing examples of countries who, you know, took themselves seriously and diversified their economy a long time ago. Indonesia is one of the major oil producers in this world. But they don't talk about oil in Indonesia. Nobody talks about oil in Indonesia. Talk about products. If you enter a supermarket in Indonesia, the products in that supermarket, 99.9% homemade. No importation of items in superstores. In our superstores, even eggs, imported eggs are there. And what have you. So it's a matter of planning, you know. It's not as if you just wake up one day and we become a great nation. It doesn't happen.
A reorientation is required.
Well, Chukwudi, the reorientation aspect is also very critical. Very critical. And I'd say this. Our population is growing. When you say 200 million people, I'm sure by the time we have a census conducted, we would know exactly, or around about how many we are, the proportion of men and women. Part of the reorientation that we should focus on, in my opinion, is as follows. It is good to look beautiful and to look sweet and to look handsome. But delimit your items of expenditure and therefore your taste. You will find teenagers who are struggling to put on the same apparel, to put on the same accessories, like somebody who is several rungs higher than them on the social ladder. Look at their nails, all those nails that you see, I'm not being sexist. You will find teenagers, you go see students, everybody, I saw one photograph of somebody who was passing out during NYSC. If you saw the nails, I said, NYSC, you are doing nails like this, NYSC.
Was it nails you saw or talons?
Well, more preferably talons. Again, this is not to disrespect
No.
Those things cost money. And the hair. Enough for you to build a bungalow. Somebody will say that if you mow, this is the hair I want to wear. Are you with me? They will spray on all kinds of things. That's one. You recall that at Queen's College in Lagos, a mother of a student in that school had a fight with the authorities because at the gate, the daughter was not allowed to proceed further on account of her hairstyle. And I said, well, it's my daughter. So if you start encouraging that, so if your daughter is doing that, as her daughter is doing that, other daughters are doing it. And the cost is going. It's going. This is part of the reorientation that we have to talk about. Look, nobody is saying you shouldn't look beautiful. Don't.
It's your money, we know.
It's your money, but spend it wisely because one, sunset is coming. In your old age, you'll be thinking, what did I invest? If that's when you start blaming witches and so on and so forth. And then, but we are suffering from it because, again, pressure on the sources of our forex to say import these things from wherever you are importing them. The other one, about fabrics and production. Olusegun Ogangan was a primary advocate and driver. The policy was formulated on what was called CTG, Cotton, Textile and Garment Value Chain. Cotton, of course, we know the belt where cotton is produced, but how many of farmers are able to go to their farms to produce the cotton now? How many are able to harvest? Where are the generalists, bandits and terrorists have overrun some of those locations? Textile, the central bank was trying to revitalize the textile, but was the money getting to the right sources? Garment, to an extent, we are dealing with garment, that's social production. What we are wearing here, are made by Nigerian tailors. But where did the fabrics come from? The fabrics, if you take several steps backwards, it have been textile produced here, should have also been cotton produced here, spun here, and then put into the value chain. What happened to the CTG? No, but again, when we just, when we talk about security challenges and so on and so forth, and industrialization, sometimes it's like you're talking to the air. But this is the knock-on effect.
Gentlemen, I know time is up. We need reorientation. And part of the reorientation, I think, much of the reorientation would start from parents.
Exactly.
I was on TV with was it Reverend Father George Husani, and we were talking integrity. We're saying, how could a child who is just 5 years have hair plaited that costs 7,000 naira? Before 12 years, you see them painting there. It has to come from parents.
Yeah.
It's very important we do that.
When Kisley was speaking, I was going to talk about, my mind went to modern mothers. Like modern mothers. They want to make their young children.
I didn't finish what I was telling you. He said, Chukwudi, you're saying parents need to train their children. What of parents that need training themselves? I didn't know what I was saying.
Exactly. If you go to schools, they organize a beauty pageant for little children, and you begin to dress them like mothers and all of that. Those things are part of the
That is what I am talking about.
Well, we are concluding on the issue of cotton, like Kingsley spoke about. See, we dropped a long time ago. Burkina Faso is #1 in Africa in terms of cotton production.
Wonderful.
And don't that they're #1. They have even devised means technologically, to expand their horizon in cotton production in Burkina Faso. And we are talking about, well, it's an issue for another day.
The other issue for another day will be the sacrifices, because His Eminence the Sultan made a significant point. If you are calling on citizens to make sacrifice, what is the example of sacrifice amongst our leaders? Political, business, religious,
traditional,
of course,
and traditional. If because you have leadership all over, what sacrifice will your followers see you make?
What examples are we getting?
What examples?
Because some governors now have procured armored cars.
Yes.
Armored cars. None of them less than 200 million in the first place. Some are procured armored cars and all of that. So where will sacrifice come from? In fact, Sultan, God bless you for this advice.
Those armored vehicles will go and count the number of tractors for tilling the earth.
Let the governors who are building all those mobile fortresses know that if you are one rich man in a large family of poor people, you're a poor man.
Okay.
And you know, sorry, gentlemen, all those vehicles you are seeing, those armored stuff, go and check, ask experts. The cost of fueling it and then moving, because that vehicle cannot take more than 2 passengers, is enough to carry 18 passengers. 18 in a minibus. The fuel that beast or whatever name is called is enough.
Yes, and on one occasion, one man who had it, a private person, there was an attack, in Anambra. The man jumped out of the armored car and ran into the bush. Who tells you that the armored car is not?
I thought he was insulated.
No. There was no space to skid off. There was traffic everywhere. She was blocked. So the
foibles upon foibles.
He ran into the bush.
And then he was not armed.
All right, we conclude here for today. This Super Review will return again tomorrow when we come back for another edition. Chukwudi Okoli-Waja, thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you, gentlemen, for always making me happy when I come.
Okay, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria on a holiday. That's a beautiful thing. We'll go on a short break now. We'll come back in a short while.
If you want to become something, become a child again. Why be a patient? If you must worry, then worry about winning. Why worry about germs? When you come home, bring tales and stories. Why bring in germs?
Shield your families from germs. When Dettol is a part of every household bucket, then you and your family can stay protected from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Everyday use of Dettol keeps my loved ones protected.
Nigeria means unity.
Nigeria means freedom to me.
Nigeria means greatness to me.
Nigeria is indivisible. There is nothing you can do. We all have to salvage it together and learn to love each other. We are indivisible.
As a mother and a leader, I will always preach for peace and unity in this country, because that is the only thing that will give us progress. Though tribes and tongues may differ, in brotherhood we stand. And it is the woman that does that.
Your skill is key to your professional growth in the competitive broadcast media industry. Take advantage of the following programs specially packaged by NTA Television College Jos to upgrade your skill. Drama Production Workshop, date 3rd July to 21st July 2023, 3 weeks. Intermediate Online News Reporting Skills, date 24th July to 11th August 2023, 3 weeks. The course fee for the 2-week course is 120,000 Naira, while the fee for the 3-week course is 150,000 Naira only, accommodation inclusive. All courses will hold at NTA Television College near Old Government House, Rayfield, Jos. For further inquiries, please call 0803-079-5335 or 0806-980-9807. NTA Television College Jos, training you to be the best you want to be. Registrar Announcer.
All right, we thank you for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria today, broadcast live on the network service of the NTA. And to begin our conversation, which centers on flooding across Nigeria, let's take this background report put together by our correspondent.
Flood in Nigeria has been a recurring issue yet to be solved. No part of the country is spared as houses and property get destroyed, lives lost, and solutions seem not too far but yet to be unraveled. Over time, government has tried in its enlightenment efforts, warning the people on the do's and don'ts in preventing flood in the country. Some of the principal causes of flood in Nigeria are rapid urbanization, intense rainstorms, rise in coastal regions, rising sea levels, poor spatial planning, and poor solid waste management, including drainage systems being used as dump sites. The country's numerous rivers, in addition to transborder river systems like rivers Niger and Benue, poor water infrastructure development such as dams, reservoirs, and bank protection also contribute to annual flooding. Similarly, the release of excess water from the Lagdo Dam in Cameroon, which often contributes to flooding in Nigeria, is supposed to be contained by smaller dams. Most challenged states include Lagos, which is one of the coast, and Niger Delta region, being on the coast, also make these places more susceptible to storm surges. Management of flood in the country has been a Herculean task as a joint frontal efforts have been made by agencies concerned. Many have called for upgrade roads and bridges, improved stormwater drainage systems, flood control measures, tide and floodgates, seawalls and flood walls. What more can be done to ensure proper flood management in the country? What are the roles of citizens and government to ensure flood reduction in the country? These are some questions begging for answers shortly.
Thank you very much, Oyemi Ajayi, for that backgrounder. We have guests with us here in the studios, as well as from Kaduna Network Center. Let's welcome the Director General of the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency, NISA, Engineer Clement Unze. He's our regular guest on a yearly basis now with regard to flooding, flood outlook, and the consequences. Engineer Clement Unze, welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you, and hello, Nigerians.
Okay. Yes, and Ajia Fatima Suleiman Kasim is also here with us in the studio. Ajia, good morning and welcome.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
And from our Kaduna studio is Abbas Idris. Abbas Idris is Director General of the FCT Emergency Management Agency. You are welcome.
Kieran, and good morning, Kingsley.
Let's not forget to inform you that Ajia Fatima Suleiman Kasim is of Director Planning, Research and Forecasting at NEMA. All right, Kingsley.
All right, let's begin the conversation with Engineer Clem Nze to give us a picture of what we are seeing now and what we are most likely to see since we're already in what you normally refer to as the jazz months.
Thank you so much for that. And earlier in the year, as earlier said, in January, one of the forecasting agencies at the federal level, and actually we have them only at the federal level, the Nigerian Meteorological Agency went on air to inform Nigerians as to what to expect in terms of rainfall. I know that the rainfall is a major agent that aggravates the flooding, depending on how we manage it. That was on the 24th of January. Less than a month after, the Nigerian Hydrological Service Agency, went public as well to inform Nigerians as to what could happen in the course of the year with regards to flood incidents across the country. It was a well-publicized a presentation, and we have been trying to cascade it. We'll be doing that to inform the citizens. And the various avenues that are available to us will be doing that. So, from the prediction for 2023, we expect that not less than 178 local government areas in Nigeria, which will cut across 32 states and the FCT, will be heavily impacted by flood incidents. And also, another 224 LGS in 35 states and the FCT will suffer another degree of flooding. This is a prediction that is adequate enough for people to plan with. And the release was made so early in the year, ever before rainfalls, got established across the country. And that prediction is weather dependent. We talk about climate change. So anything could happen in between. Even the areas that we have said that will not suffer a heavy degree of flooding might turn out to be impacted heavily. But it is an instrument we can use to do that proper plan and mitigate the negative effects of flood across the country.
Okay. All right. Let's go to Kaduna, where we have Abbas Idris. You are the Director General of FCT Emergency Management Agency. Well, it is not under your purview to mitigate flooding in Abuja. But I want to ask you, because your office, perhaps you have some collaboration, synergy with the FCT authority responsible for perhaps mitigation of flooding in the FCT. According to Engineer Clement Nze, in January, his establishment and others released a forecast, which of course established the fact that, as he pointed out, 178 communities in the 32 states and FCT will be experiencing different degrees or categories of flooding, if you like. But what we saw a few days ago in Trade Mall and elsewhere across Abuja is not something to write home about. What is your reading of the level of preparedness we put out every year when it comes to predictions that come from reliable agencies, authorized agencies who have always predicted correctly in the past couple of years?
Thank you very much. Engineer, they know that we at the FCT Emergency Management Agency, we use we make good use of the early warning issued by NISA and NIMET. The NIMET is almost 3 days, which we make very good use of it. And also we take that of NISA very, very seriously, and cascaded down to the area councils using the local emergency management committees. And having done that, we have both structurally and non-structurally taken care of the impact of flooding or mitigating flooding in the FCT using all the other stakeholders. Only 2 weeks ago, we had a conference of the stakeholders where we analyzed and also tested our preparedness in terms of any flooding in the FCT. Fortunately or unfortunately, last Friday, we woke up with that incident at Trademore Estate, which is not surprising at all. And so we have done the structural measures. The structural measures, in fact, taking stock of those box culverts that are not that are impediments to the free flow of water to the discharge point, which has been we call upon the FCDA to come and change them to river bridges, which they have done in most places, especially those places that are prone to flooding. We have also got the Abuja Environmental Protection Board also, who have ensured that they have evacuated all the waste dump, whether indiscriminately or discriminately, to ensure that they didn't block the waterways. The facility maintenance and management also are busy desilting the drains all over the city. You will agree with me that it used to flood around Area 1 roundabout, as well as some areas around near Chida hotels and so on and so forth within the city, especially also around Asokoro, some streets along Asokoro. So those are going to be continuous exercise, especially the issue of the silting. It's not something that is done today and forget about it till next year. We discovered that anytime it rains, it comes with that kind of rubbles, and it blocks the drains and also the waterways. So therefore, there is a strong collaborations and synergy between the SDS as well as the FCT emergency management agencies, and also even including those that are not within the FCT administration. So those collaborators, those stakeholders who are not within the FCTA family, they are all cooperating with us and giving us all the necessary support to ensure that we do the needful. And the same last week, Hajia was there. We had a very strong meeting with the UN agencies who are showing interest also to see how they can help us in capacity building and ensuring that flood is mitigated all over the states, not only in Abuja. So a lot of things are being done behind the scene to ensure that the flooding is really mitigated. And also we have dusted our response plans with all the stakeholders, ensuring that any time, at any point in time, we are battle ready to ensure that the lives and properties of the residents of the FCT is saved.
All right, thank you very much, DG of FEMA. That's the FCT Emergency Management Agency, Abbas Idris, speaking to us from our Cardinal Network studios. We'll come to you presently. But just before I go back to bring in the Director of NEMA in charge of planning, research, and forecasting, I would like to return to Engineer Clemens. Engineer Clemens, I said, look, what is it that we are seeing now against the backdrop of your earlier flood outlook for the year? Well, June, of course, ends by tomorrow, and then we get into July and August and then September. You didn't quite answer that aspect of my question, so I would like you to respond to that so that our viewers get a sense of it before we then bring in the Emergency Management Agency to tell us what they are also doing in terms of mitigation.
Okay, now the usually, it is from the months of July, August, and September. In fact, these 3 months of the year are the peak period of flooding in Nigeria. But what has happened so far, gives a little bit shift from the usual. In other words, we have begun so early to experience a flood disaster before we enter the actual months of the year. Possibly the time also the river flooding will join. So what I'm saying is the devastation has been quite humongous now, which tends to point that as we progress into the other months of the year, we might likely see more. And since we're already within the flooding season, efforts need to be doubled. Like I read it somewhere where the governor of Delta State was talking about demolishing houses. So such things should be stepped up now, both clearing the drainages to forestall any huge distortion that might occur when the rains establish. If you go to far north, some places the rains are not actually gotten established. By that I mean going by the prediction by 9 Met, when the rains are actually supposed to. But quite early in the year, we are having so much that of destruction caused by flood that portends to the fact that maybe, most likely, we are yet to see more.
What we are seeing now, again, to use your expert language always, or your expert term, this is urban flooding we are seeing now. We haven't seen river flooding yet.
It has not yet come. When other countries begin to experience their own flood. Because of the location of Nigeria, what we call Niger Basin, Nigeria is at the bottom of 9 countries, being one of them anyway. 8 other countries are upstream. On the river, on the West African side, you have Guinea, Mali, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Benin Republic, where River Niger, most starting from Guinea, Guinea Conakry. Then River Benue from Cameroon, and then Chad flows into it. So all this, as we progress into the year, when all these other countries will be experiencing their own rainfall with the flooding incident, and they will all gravitate down to Nigeria. And then finding east, we're meeting in Lokoja before going to the Niger Delta. So what is happening so far now is urban flooding aggravated by lack of drainage systems or blocked drainage systems wherever if they at all they exist, building within the flood plains and so on and so forth.
Okay, you see, when we talk about mitigation, and we discuss this every year, it tends to perhaps fall on deaf ears, so to speak. A short while ago, the DG of FCT, NEMA, Abbas Idris, talked about, behind the scene actions being taken to ensure that there's a proper mitigation. Abuja, for instance. But I think that mitigation is physical in the first place, mainly physical, if I understand that, in terms of building sandbags and clearing, researching the drainage, ensuring that it is done physically, not when the rain comes, you do not carry all the deaths and rubbish people put into the gutter, and everything without be gushed out by flood across Abuja. But if mitigation is the right word to use here, then we would want to see some physical activities that will depict mitigation, because flood is physical. It's not paperwork, it is physical. And we are lucky to have agencies that have accurate forecasting in good time as well, so that mitigation should start early enough, not when the floods are here. So madam, fill us in, with some of these behind the scene actions or physical actions in your view that will really require to ensure that Abuja is mitigated against flooding. Now we still have 3 months to go, 3 drastic months to go.
Good morning, Nigerians. Immediately, NIMET released their seasonal climate prediction, and NISA also released their annual flood outlook. As you know, NEMA is one of the primary users of their predictions. We developed a document, an early warning document, which we called 2023 Climate-Related Preparedness and Mitigation Strategy document. This we disseminated to all the state governors, including the risk maps of places that have been designated by NISA to be on high risk areas, just like he mentioned, 178 local governments. Local governments that have been designated as being in the moderately flood risk areas, and those that are on the low risk areas. This we immediately sent to all stakeholders, including the state governors. In the letters we sent to the state governors, we informed them of the need to be proactively prepared in view of these two predictions. We informed them of the need to have in place local emergency management committees. You know, floods will normally start from a particular community, and it's expected that they will be the first responders before the state will come, and then the national will come. We also informed the state to have very functional state emergency management agencies. Some states don't have functional emergency management agencies. What they do normally is when the rains come, they just recruit some people on ad hoc basis. What we want is for the states to have very functional local government emergency agencies and state emergency management agencies, because they are the first responders. We also informed the states to start identifying places where camps where people who are affected by flooding will be hosted. We also inform them to start sensitizing their people, and also to start prepositioning relief materials, because they are the first responder. It's expected that they will be the first to assist their people before the federal will come. On NEMA's part, we've also been airing flood jingles both in the media and then TV houses. We've also started prepositioning relief materials. Just like Dr. Abbas said, we are collaborating with UN agencies for us to build the capacities of the SEMAs, because as you know, most times when government changes, most of the SEMAs are also political holders. So normally when any government is phased out, they also go, and it affects the way those agencies are being manned.
Sorry,
yes.
I'm not pausing you per se, but just for you to, further give us illustrations, from what you've said so far, that you collaborate with state management agencies.
Yes.
You wrote to them, to the state. What has been the reaction for all these letters you write? Do you have a mechanism, that follows up your letter to see if they're adhering to it, or is it not your concern to do that because you are at the federal level? Because if what you are doing does not cascade to that level, it means that we may not be, achieving success. So in all the letters you've written and all of that, what is the response, or has been the response of these state governors and state authorities?
We have offices which we call zonal territorial and operation offices. They collaborate with the state governments. They have been sensitizing the populace within their jurisdiction that they manage. So with that, we expect that they work in tandem in collaboration with the states, and they'll be giving us feedbacks that they've been sensitizing the people in collaboration with the
result of flooding across Nigeria. Do you think that these documents that you sent to them have been adhered to?
With what has been happening, I don't think so. But we have been sensitizing the people. We have been sensitizing.
You're doing your own part of it.
Well, I think that one of the issues that my colleague is driving at is, earlier you were talking about informing the state governments about the flood outlook and the need for them to trigger their response mechanisms and the level of preparedness. The other is this a one-way communication or a two-way communication? Oh, we have already kickstarted this process. This is what we are doing. Do you have any pro forma or any template for us to say you want to have shelters, we want to do X, Y, Z? What are the material needs that we need to keep? That's part of what we are saying. That look, are you getting that feedback? If feedback is coming, fine. If it isn't, the consequences will be there. But I think every responsible government will want to avert those consequences. It's worrisome, I should say, having focused on this topic year in, year out over the recent years, that you are indicating now some states still have ad hoc emergency management processes. I don't want to say agency. I say this because when Engineer Mehaja was DG of NEMA, it was disclosed on Good Morning Nigeria when we were speaking that there was a state government that had only 2 members of staff, and it's a emergency agency, emergency management agency. When disaster strikes, the first thing is they will pick a call and be calling NEMA. So I don't know. Engineer Clemens, you are smiling. Again, this is part of what you do. I know that you also have your interactions with stakeholders, you meet with them. Have you done that this year? Sometime in the past when you did, I saw the frustration on your face to say that there seemed to have been no follow-up. What is happening this year? Are they listening? If they are listening, are they doing the right things, say at the subnational level?
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, that has been the experience, the frustration that at the federal level, the agencies are doing the best they can. We have 3 tiers of government, the subnationals. They have their own territories and jurisdictions that they should, they supervise and carry activities. It's not the duty of Abuja to go to any state to begin to enforce environmental laws. Each state has its own laws, pipeline authorities, and so on and so forth. But last week or thereabouts, yes, based on the NEMA's letters to state governors, we could see the activities going on in Akwa Ibom. I want to use that as an example. From the top, the state governor, deputy governor, and whoever you can think of, including legislators, were at a meeting. And then they have marshaled out what they are already doing, both for emergency preparedness in terms of relief materials and the physical work on ground. We're talking about, it's something that you'll be flood is a physical thing you will see. What do you do physically also to avert negative aspect of it? As we speak now, a lot of work is going on in Jigawa State. Equipment are on the field. You talk about sandbag, all kinds of things you can think of with those areas that are involved in Jigawa State. Now, but it's quite, painful to all that you keep singing the same song every year. Now, based on the work of NISA, in last year, 2022, Mr. President then issued an ultimatum to the supervising Minister of Water Resources, Mr. Suleiman Adam, then, that he should call out other relevant ministries and ministers and state governors to give him, within 90 days, a document that will be used to see that the issue of flooding in Nigeria is minimized, the disaster aspect of it anyway. We brainstormed. It was only Anambra and Jigawa that were respected at that highest level. Governor was the deputy governor and coming to Abuja to discuss that document. We met several times, and later we had to grant truth what will be written on papers and seen on social media to visit the states. Some states were quite enthusiastic to receive the presidential committee. I led one that went to South. If you go into details of what happened, it could be quite embarrassing. But I'm to tell you here that Bayelsa State received the delegation. Deputy governor was there on ground. We visited all the locations in Bayelsa. Like when we are talking about our experience in other states, the deputy governor said, the way the person whose mama went to market did they cry, it's different for the person where mama don't die. That for them in Bayelsa, it's like the mama don't die. So they want to ensure that whatever is required to be done will be done to save the state. So as we speak also in Bayelsa, the governor is on his toes with regard to physically consulting some structures. In fact, we saw one housing estate where they raised the foundation of the house with some piers, what you call pillar, as much as 1.5 meters, 5 feet above the ground before you start the main building. So this is what they are doing in the housing estate, unlike what we saw in Tredmore Estate, where it's like people just built anyhow. There was no proper drainage delineation. So what I'm saying, some states are keen into what we have been talking about, physical work, to ensure that the citizens are safe. But majority are not paying heed to what we've been predicting or talking about.
Okay. All right. It's good, really, that you read out the states that are, paying attention to flood mitigation. Jigawa, Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, on one occasion you mentioned Anambra. And these are areas where flood has always been devastating. And any government in those areas that is not serious with respect to mitigating flood is not really giving the real dividends of democracy that you all talked about during the campaign period. Now it's time to save lives. It's time to direct government policies and implementation strategies, towards protecting the lives and property of the people. If you go to Tredmore Estate, you will weep for the persons who are, in fact, over 100 houses were not just that were flooded, submerged. No properties, nothing, everything gone to water. And that's what we're talking about. So let's return to Abbas Idris. Yours is Abuja, and we're talking about Tredmore and other areas. Is it Galadima, one of those popular areas? Galadima, Gwarimpa. Gwarimpa, recall one man in an SUV with his children some 3 or 4 years ago, swept away in Gwarimpa. Lokogoma, right. Lokogoma. No, that was a Gwarimpa incident, I'm sure. Yes, I'm sure as well, right. So, and today we are still talking about look at Tredmore, very close to the city center. And this happened. At Area 8, you get flooding. If it rains for about 20 minutes non-stop in Abuja, Area 8 is flooded. Area 1 is flooded. These are places I have been through and I saw it, practically for over 10 years. And nothing has been done. In some cities across the globe, there are reconstructions, re-evaluation of, gutters, expansion and or what have you, with respect to the volume of water that are collected during rain. Sir, is there anything like that in whatever documents that we have for Abuja with respect to mitigation of flooding in this beautiful city of ours?
Thank you very much. Before I answer that question, I would like to go back to your own question where I made mention of behind the scene. What I mean by behind the scene is that means people are working without really bringing press into to come and take and show what we are doing. That's what I mean by behind the scene. And everybody will agree with me that the demolitions are going on. The demolitions are those structures built on the waterways or floodplains. And these are all mitigated factors. And that is why I mentioned structural and non-structural. And to my good friend, Engineer Nze, I'm surprised that he didn't mention FCT. He was at our conference before he gets to Akwa Ibom. He should have mentioned FCT as one of those that have taken this action more seriously. He was there and he witnessed, and the permanent secretary in the absence of the minister was also there. So, and all the stakeholders, ES, FCDA, and all other directors of FCT and FCDA were there. In fact, all the stakeholders, including military, police, and the other relevant stakeholders were there. And we have identified those areas that are prone to flooding. And if you go to the city, we have mounted even signposts to such areas where Kiran is talking about somebody being taken away in his own car, because people we have warned severally. We have 5 jingles running in all the stations, most of the stations in the FCT in 5 languages, and we are doing that to avert death and loss of property, but yet people don't. So we now resorted to putting signposts in all the flood-prone areas so that at least you will see. When you see, you will stop. And then those slip roads that are also causing death, we block them so that unless they are upgraded to a higher level, we will continue to block them when it is raining, so that we save people's lives. And so, Gwarimpa, there was nobody that was taken away by flood. It was at Lokogoma. I mean, that time when he was taking his children for lesson, and both of them died. So Gwarimpa is still safe, but I know there are some flash points in some areas. And why we are calling on the residents is that it's a two-way traffic. While the government is doing its own, the attitudinal change also need to change. People are still dumping refuse indiscriminately. People are still throwing away cans. You see them when they finish their drink, they wind the window down and throw away the window, throw away the cans, and that clog the manholes and also the waterways. So a lot of things need to be. It's not just the government. We talk about government when there is a problem, and we don't talk about the positive aspect of the government when they are doing their own work. And a lot of research is going on in terms of hydrological ways to ensure that Abuja remains safest. All those areas that are having problems are areas that have gone and built on the waterways, and that is why the demolition is going on. And when we are even removing those structures, people are even going against government. That people came to just put their own livelihood, and you are coming to remove it. And when the water, when the rains comes and then it flooded, people will not think back about those aspects that have blocked the waterways, but they will now come back to the government again and say, you have not done this and you have not done that. So we need to really work hand in hand. We have to change our own attitude. We have to work as a team. While the government is putting all the infrastructure, the people also should avoid anything that can lead to flooding. People are still building on waterways in the FCT. The population explosion is so much in the FCT. It has overstretched the facilities. And that is why even where there is no flood, because the water could not populate now, you see that the water runs up and then it will go and enter some places. Before now, you find out that the place it was not built, so the water can go down the earth, and so it will not go down to where it will go and cause flooding. So, and with the climate change, every year things are changing. The pattern is changing, the rain pattern is changing, and also the population is increasing with a corresponding increase in infrastructure. So a lot need to be done, seriously. And everybody, both the government and the non-governmental, complaining about funds. So, but where we have identified that these are the flood-prone areas, it should be respected. But the developers are there selling those areas, and unfortunately, when this flood happens, like the one in Trademore, the developer is there. Why can't they hold him responsible? We have said time without numbers on this media that that area doesn't have any title, and so if there is no title, why did the developer went and collected people's money, gave them structures, gave them land, and then the building was not planned, and that's why engineer was saying that there was no adequate drainages. And that is the same thing with Lokogoma. Lokogoma doesn't have engineering infrastructure as well.
Well, Abbas Idris, thank you very much. We're just getting into that aspect of Trademore. If you recall, a couple of years ago when they had the flash flood disaster and some persons were swept away, some dramatic videos that went viral, we had you on Good Morning Nigeria, and you said that, okay, the FCT authority would take remedial measures, including the removal of structures that were on waterways. But Here we are this year in 2023. The disaster in terms of the volume of flooding, if not fatalities, is something that should cause some concern. What is it about Trademore that becomes, as it were now, some recurrent bad tale?
Is still on the waterways. Everybody knows. Those who are living in that area knows that they are living on a waterway. Those who are visiting the place also knows that they are still on a waterway, and that is why they don't have title. And so the demolition, 2021 we had fatalities, and then 20 at that time some houses were removed, and 2022. Some houses were marked. Those ones that we counted after the Friday incident were 116 houses submerged. And anytime, because the entire estate is still on the waterways, anytime you remove the structures, you are really expanding another way of the water again, because the entire estate is still on the waterway. So the best way is to remove the entire structure, the entire estate in that place. That is the best way you can have peace of mind in that estate. So if you remove just 100 houses, the water you are just expanding, it will go to another 100 houses by the left or right again. So this is the problem, and that is the reason why we have to declare the place a disaster zone, so that at least we have talked to the people severally that please, for your own sake, for the sake of your life, leave that area, so that at least there will be safety of lives. But it seems they don't want to. Instead, they're arguing on issue of ownership, which is not the concern of the FCTA administration at the moment. The main concern is to save life and property, and so of the residents of the FCT. So people should take their life very, very seriously. And then we should also be considerate and make sure that we also contributed to what the government is doing. Like I said, we must change our attitude. Attitude in the sense that we shouldn't be dumping refuse indiscriminately. We should not also drive on a running water, or walk on a running water. We have saved this thing severally so that we can save our lives. That's very important.
Thank you, Abbas Idris. When things happen, we, the newsmen, if you like, try to track the story, even if it takes years. As a matter of fact, the incidents that we have in Abuja is for me, as a city of this caliber, should have been taken care of. Trademore, for instance, like you said, shouldn't have been in existence in the first place. It was planned. That's not your issue, because I'm not sure you were there. I mean, when it all happened. And the demand and the student that I talked about in Gwarimpa happened, I think 2012 or 2014. I live in that area. And when it happened, we all knew what happened, the consequences of that. I live in that area. I still live there now. It happened, really. And that was on an evening like that. On an evening, it was taking them home. The local government incident is a different case altogether. But we keep account of all of that, because that's what we do. But the primary objective for discussing this topic this morning is to see what can be done. Cities are reconstructed, cities are expanded, facilities or infrastructure are improved upon. In Stockholm, Sweden, I saw an old city of that nature. Fresh constructions, digging holes, creating bigger and wider water passage areas. And I said, look, if that can happen here, Abuja is a new city, so to speak, so compared with such cities. So we can still do that. It may not be your thing to do, but we're here to sensitize the people, of course, an agenda for whoever is concerned to know that Abuja cannot be built and left without expansion, or trying to see what we can do to remedy the situation with respect to flooding. Expanding the infrastructure that we have already. Now, Madam, let me bring you in again. Now, what are the challenges that you have, in trying to ensure that all the letters which you're sending across Nigeria for state NEMA to adhere to what should assist us in mitigating flood in Nigeria. Because you see, if it doesn't happen to you, you wouldn't know. I saw people in Lokoja. In 2012, I was caught up in Lokoja, for instance, in 2012. I saw people yelling, crying. People's houses swallowed. In fact, they had nothing. Some just had what they were wearing at the moment. So if you don't feel it, you wouldn't know it. So that's why we seem to sound so serious about what we can do, especially for the downtrodden people, you know, who sometimes are made to leave their fatherland to stay in schools or other areas that are provided for them as victims.
Part of the challenges we have is that we'll expect the state governments to do a lot more than they are doing now. Like I said before, they need to have a functional LEMA and SEMA in place, because those are the first responders in their own area. These two agencies need to be funded. They are not, some of them are not adequately funded. And then we also will want the state governments too to do more of sensitizing their population, preferably in their local languages. We are doing our bit at the federal level. We expect the states to key in. If they speak to them in their local languages, they will understand better. And they should do a lot more to dissuade them from staying where they are if that particular location is a flood-prone area. I also want them to sensitize more, like I said, in TV, radio. For instance, in the north, most people listen to BBC Hausa. Maybe if they can have some time in BBC, they will understand, and then depending on which one goes well for a particular area, they can do that one too as well. So that's what we want.
Okay, Hajia Fatima, I have a question for you, okay. But we will have to take a short break now. And when we return from the break, I'll pop my question. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority.
Your skill is key to your professional growth in the competitive broadcast media industry. Take advantage of the following programs specially packaged by NTA Television College Jos to upgrade your skill. Drama Production Workshop, date 3rd July to 21st July 2023, 3 weeks. Intermediate Online News Reporting Skills, date 24th July to 11th August 2023, 3 weeks. The course fee for the 2-week course is 120,000 Naira, while the fee for the 3-week course is 150,000 Naira only, accommodation inclusive. All courses will hold at NTA Television College near Old Government House, Rayfield, Jos. For further inquiries, please call 0803-079-5335 or 0806-980-9807. NTA Television College Jos, training you to be the best you want to be. Registrar Announcer.
Nigeria means a lot to me.
And Nigeria means peaceful cohesion.
My country.
We continue to pray, and then hopefully we will come to understand that unity of purpose, unity of living together.
Our ethnic beliefs and background and culture is our strength.
Ever since the amalgamation period of 1914 to date, about 109 years ago, the people of Nigeria live very peacefully with one another.
I think diversity helps a lot to enhance robust development in Nigeria.
All over the country, you have so many ethnic groups, over 250. That is enough to tell you that this is a blessed country that, God has kept, together as one indivisible entity.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
My victory does not render me any more Nigerian than my opponent, nor does this render them any less patriotic. They shall forever be my fellow compatriots, and I will treat them as such. They represent important constituencies and concerns that wisdom dare not ignore.
You're welcome back and still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, and we are live from our headquarters studios here in the nation's capital of Abuja. Hajia Fatima, who is Director in charge of Planning, Research and Forecasting at NEMA, my question will be as follows. We all saw the devastation caused by the floods of 2022, which was last year. Devastation, no question about that. And what then would arise would be, have we recovered from the devastation of last year's flood? And if we have not recovered, what do we need to do to at least, again, mitigate the consequences of what might occur in 2023?
Thank you for that question. As you know, in NEMA, what our mandate says is we do mostly non-structural, carry out non-structural measures. So I believe that if structural measures are backed or go in tandem or hand in hand with non-structural measures, we'll achieve a lot more. Because just like DG Nisa said, it's only a few states that are engaging in structural measures. So how do we achieve or mitigate flooding the way we want to? Because what we do in NEMA is just the non-structural measures, sensitizing, going on advocacy to states to tell them to proactively prepare. So unless structural measures are carried out, we'll still be where we are.
No, I would consider that rather worrisome, because when you look at, I don't know, if you look at those houses that were submerged in Kogi, for instance, in Delta, in Anambra, and I think parts of Imo, and ultimately in Bayelsa, I don't know whether those structures, again, this is the structural aspect. A number of persons were displaced from their homes. There were health concerns and so on and so forth. Do we have shelters that can accommodate them in the event that inundation and flooding also arise in 2023? So it was quite worrisome. You know, there were washouts of highways and so on.
Some states have shelters to accommodate them, but I don't know how long the states will allow those people to stay in the shelters. Because staying in those shelters, the shelters need to be maintained. And I'm sure they will not be adequate for those that have been affected. The state governments, like we have all agreed, need to brace up and live up to their expectation. So the states have to start thinking of building houses that can withstand flood disasters. That is just it.
Okay, let's return to Engineer Clement here. You said that July, August, and September are the peak period, you know, of flooding in Nigeria. It's also a peak period for heavy rain, if that's correct. We have not begun to hear about flooding in the north, as usual, or is it that perhaps when we get to July, August, September, we begin to hear that more or less now we hear that happening down south and part of perhaps north central Kogi. Now, what is going to be the situation? Because when it happened, okay, you said that until other nations begin to release water from their dams, if they have a surplus water, that usually is going to come down to Nigeria, because as you pointed out, we are somehow at the bottom, or living on the lower plane than other countries, where we have River Niger and other rivers coming from. So what are we expecting in the next couple of weeks?
Like that of the northern part of Nigeria or the far north, in some places the rains have not actually been established. By that I mean the onset period for the rainfall, and then when it now begins to rain regularly. For instance, in Maiduguri last year, a place that normally experiences about 500 millimeters of rainfall all through the year, maybe about 3-4 months of rainy season. About 400 to 500 millimeters of rainfall. Within less than 2 days, it had over 200 millimeters of rainfall. Climate change issue. Now that translated to heavy flooding within Maiduguri metropolis. Now, if there is no adequate drainage systems to evacuate the runoff, that what comes to play, destruction. So we never heard about flooding because the rains have not actually commenced in earnest. That is for that. And then for the issue of other catchments, other countries within the Niger Basin, many of them have not actually begun to experience the rainfall in their own areas. And when that begins to happen, that is when the river flooding, which is maybe another leg of a flood, will join. And Nigeria actually being at the receiving end of all the other 8 countries, we begin to get flooded. But we don't know what is happening there for now. But at the peak of time, say from July, August, for instance, August, we'll be having more or less daily information as what is happening in all those countries.
You seem to understand the movement of water when this flooding begins. To say, look, if it starts, this is where it's going. All right, that's the waterways as we know it. Now, what should the governors or agencies concerned in those states, you mentioned Maiduguri, Jigawa, Kebbi, and all of those states that were usually flooded, Adamawa, and the rest of them, what should they be doing now, in terms of mitigation?
The issue of sensitizing the people, removing structure that are within the always recurring decimal of flood issues. Such structure should be removed. The issue of like I mentioned, each state has a town planning authority. They should do their work. Nobody can enforce it apart from them. Abuja cannot enforce any law the state has made for its own proper governance. Removing the structure that are within the floodplain. Now, under the Presidential Committee on Flood Relief and Rehabilitation, which came into being October 2012. 48 hostels have been built across the country, actually in 24 states, each having 2. Federal government have done that one. And the states have been encouraged to make maximum use of those hostels built by the federal government with all the facilities you will need, medicals, water, power, they are all there. But the states most of them have been dragging in terms of taking ownership. It is only during the flooding season that the federal government level takes over and does whatever it should do to evacuate the people, take care of them when they are there. But at the end of it, some of those structures begin to dilapidate because the states are not taking over to even use them as their own health facilities for their normal use all through the year. So we expect the state governments to key into this. And then the northern part of Nigeria, not yet being flooded, should do the needful now before the rest gets established up there.
All right, thank you very much, Engineer Clemens, for the additional information you have provided. Let's go back to the DG of the FCT Emergency Management Agency, as is with us from our Kaduna Network studios. Abbas Idris, there's something that should be of concern. This may not directly be your responsibility, but your sister agencies ordinarily should be responsible for this environmental management in the capital city. When you look at some manholes in the FCT, you shudder and wonder what's going to happen in the years to come, if not already. I'll give you an example. Most of the manhole covers, of course, have been removed by vandals, and so debris and sand and all kinds of things just block these manholes in most parts that you are driving through in the city. And surprisingly, I saw, for instance, that in the course of this year's rainfall, that a bridge, and one of that bridge, a bridge at Wuse 2, that's the Adetokunbo Ademola junction with Amadu Bello Way, that bridge was flooded. And so an entire carriageway was abandoned by motorists who now took the other carriageway to face oncoming traffic. Obviously, it means that the drains on the bridge were clogged and have not been desilted. What is it that sister agencies are also doing for purposes of desilting all these drains? You just, once in a while, you see, a small gang of workers trying to desilt, but there's no indication that there's a realization that this is serious work that we need to do now, so that years to come, we don't all face the penalty if you continue to live in the FCT.
Yeah, absolutely right. Even on Tuesday, we took a drive around the city with the permanent secretary and all the heads of those SDS responsible for the city management. And we have identified those areas, and he had given the directives that before the end of this, the end of next week, all these areas should be desilted, and all the manholes that are blocked should be, rehabilitated and ensure that they are open. So this directive is on at the moment, and I'm sure they are going to do a lot. And the manholes, most of those that have been stolen have been recovered, and they are still with the Nigerian Civil Defense because they still go to court with those arrested, and so that is the reason. But in some places also, the FCDA are constructing another a block manhole to ensure that all those areas that are open, they are covered. But at the moment, that is the directives by the permanent secretary that all those places should be desilted with immediate effect. And I'm expecting to see result immediately, absolutely.
Okay, well, good enough, really, that you have said this, and if it happens, it's better for all of us. Now, let's do a little leap, into something else that is also connected to this conversation. That has to do with the conversion of excess water. We have discussed on several occasions here that there's a possibility of diversion of excess water into positive use. I know it needs a lot of technicalities, a lot of engineering to do that. But if it's a possibility, I want us to share in that. You are more of a professional person as an engineer before Madam comes in. Is it possible to divert flood for positive use as a nation?
You see, that's a very painful reality when you compare Nigeria with other countries of the world that don't have water. I was in Kenya, I think in the month of March, under AU Commission's invitation for a meeting. I saw some video clips where there has been no rainfall, part of Kenya, over a year. You see people, animals, that died everywhere, littered everywhere. But here in Nigeria, we have excess water, so to say. Now, I have been involved in the international politics about the rivers Niger and Benue, about the use of this water with our neighboring countries. 9 of us on the whole, to negotiate for Nigeria. being downstream of all the other 9 countries. When we begin to tell them, don't take so much, what we call threshold, Guinea, or let me say Guinea-Conakry, where River Niger comes from, please don't take more than 15%, that was Niger's position. Don't take more than 15% of the water, so that Mali will get their own. Mali don't take more than 15%, so that Niger will get of the River Niger before Benin Republic. Now the argument put to Nigeria, which you couldn't defend, is you lose close to 200 billion cubic meters of fresh water to the Atlantic every year. Why can't we take as much as we want? So this fresh water comes from all the other countries, pass through Nigerian territory like what I will call gold. We see it passing through rivers Niger and Benue, then they will empty into the Atlantic Ocean through the Gulf of Guinea. We are not making use of it. So we've been talking about creating detention basins across the states. A detention basin is like a reservoir. You see, human population and activities gravitate towards wherever you have water. If you go to Egypt, about 90% of people of Egypt live on River Nile. And we know what the conflict between Egypt and Ethiopia. Before, I didn't know that. I thought Egypt was the only owner of River Nile.
No Egypt.
Yes. Ethiopia is upstream of Egypt. And they had to build their own dam. Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Egypt was ready to go to war physically. But Ethiopia said, there's nothing you can do, must build this dam. Very massive dam. So coming back to Nigeria, we have been advocating that the state government should build what we call detention basins. You see what is happening in Jabi Dam here, Jabi Lake, is artificial. It was built. And if you go there as we talk now, there are activities. People are making business there. Even ShopRite came and built whatever they built. ShopRite is there, a kind of a view. Now, where at certain designated locations within your own state, you can make a diversion. So that a certain threshold of the level of River Niger or River Benue, some amount of water will go to such basins, properly constructed with gates. To divert the water, you can have as many square kilometers you can build it, because we have large expanse of land up north. So that in those areas, if it is properly constructed with some impermeable materials, whatever is diverted there will remain there. And if life can even spring in those areas, people will begin to come around the area for whatever they want to do. You have year-round irrigated agriculture. At the critical moment of the time, you can release those water. So that's what we've been advocating. Instead of allowing the fresh water within Nigeria, the one coming from Cameroon and Chad and then other countries in the Niger, now they will just pass Kebbi State, pass Niger State, Kwara, it comes to Kogi, and so on and so forth, then wasted away. So we can detain this water.
Well, Engineer Clement, thank you very much. Of course, you know very well Professor Emmanuel Adano, who is Managing Director or DG, I'm not quite sure what the exact title, Director General of the National Water Institute in Kaduna. He was also a former Director of Dams at the Federal Ministry of Water Resources. The issue that he has often talked about when we are complaining about the utilization of freshwater bodies. First, his theory is that flooding has its own uses, in the sense that you have alluvial deposits that come and help to naturally fertilize the soil. But what then do you do with the waters? Because we have a number of dams around the country. The dams are silted. We don't utilize the dams fully for commercial, agricultural, or even domestic purposes. And it is not the business. The then Minister of Water Resources also used to be with us on Good Morning Nigeria. It is not the business of the federal government to provide reticulation. The federal government provides bulk water like a dam or a reservoir. State government go there, tap, and then supply to your people. When you utilize water from a dam, the level of the water goes down, so that as we are having rains now and flooding, they will go back again to refill the dams. And if there is siltation, of course, you can also dredge it and then utilize it. But All of this is not happening. I don't know. These are structural issues. Whether NEMA would like to comment on this. Again, the utilization of water, the maintenance, management of our dams. It doesn't seem to be quite salutary. Engineer Clemens, just weigh in briefly before we wrap up this conversation.
Thank you so much. Yes. I overheard you talking about we have a number of dams. Nigeria doesn't have much dams. It's about 408 dams in Nigeria, and about 52 dams one we classify as large dams. So we don't have enough dams in Nigeria at all, going by the land mass. In fact, Canada has 933 large dams, then 15,000 dams in Canada.
You see, yes. Thanks a lot for the point. So that it doesn't then become a capital issue to say that we have to start building dams. The ones that we have.
Then I'm coming to that. Now, the ones we have, like when we engage JICA, Japan International Cooperation Agency, for our water sourcing master plan. When they were in certain part of the north, they were literally crying, shedding tears. They saw large volume of water detailed in the dams, not being made use of. The Minister of Water Resources had always pleading with state governments, these things have been built, make use of it. Don't allow the water, let me use the word rotting, let the water waste in your zone. Like Water Resources, Minister of Water Resources Federal built Gorara Phase 2, Gorara Dam. Already we have Lower Usman Dam. To augment what is happening, built of development in the FCT. That other dam was built somewhere in Kaduna State with heavy capacity and with a tunnel of 10 feet, more than 3 meters. That tunnel to convey water from that side 76 kilometers to augment Lower Usman Dam. And that is helping to get more water to places in the FCT. Now, I know a state, I won't call the name, the same Minister of Water built a dam there, or whatever reservoir, to use it for their citizens. They said they cannot afford 3 million naira per month to treat water that have been provided for them there. So the same story, 3 million naira. 3 million naira, yes, to treat water. You buy chlorine, you buy all kinds of things. I don't know the details.
Alarm and so on.
So far, they learn a lot through us here. Okay. So the states will use the water that is available. Under the Ministry of Water Resources, we have a commission that issues licenses to individuals, government that want to use this water that has been provided for them for commercial purposes or to serve their citizens. Let them make use of these dams.
Okay, you see, we've talked about this over and over again. Like this diversion of the flood. We're talking about re-energizing Lake Chad and what have you. Well, these are possibilities, if we are thinking positively and have the right mentality to get them implemented. We're rounding off this program gradually, but I want to bring in Madame once again. I'm sure Engineer Nza has said a lot about the issue of diversion. But I wanted to make your final thoughts to this conversation as to what can be done. The state governments you've written to perhaps, heed to your advice as a federal establishment to see this is the way to go with respect to mitigating flood. No response, I'm sure. You're not getting up to the percentage you would want to get in terms of their response and keen into the process. What's your take? Very briefly.
Okay. We want them to have very functional LEMA and SEMA and to dedicate funds for disaster management in their states. That's what we want them to do, and to be more alive to their responsibility to their citizenry.
All right, thanks a lot, Hajia Fatima. Then Abbas Idris from our Kaduna Network Studios, what more would you like to see done? So that last year, for instance, when most parts of the country got inundated, the FCT was spared to a considerable extent. But this year, what do we need to do here in the FCT already with Trade Mall taking the lead in the disaster reportage?
I want to reassure the residents of the FCT that all hands are on deck to ensure that There is no fatality in the FCT by the grace of God. And we are working around the clock with all the stakeholders. You know, like we always say, disaster management is bottom up. So we give much concentration to the area councils to ensure that their local emergency management committees are functional. We have increased the level of our volunteers as well, who are also using all their own techniques to ensure that they save lives and properties around them. And we are teaching them the modern way of rescue, especially the local divers that are with us. So we'll continue to do that, and we'll continue to sensitize the public because sensitization is a key in managing disaster. Once you know the do's and the don'ts, and we are very much sure FCT is an enlightened society, so we believe that people will adhere to the early warning so that we'll be able to really ensure that lives and properties are saved.
Okay, thank you indeed, Abbas Idris. We appreciate your waking up with us this morning to provide your contributions to our conversation. Thank you indeed, and once again, Baraka de Salah to you. Hajia Fatima Suleiman Kasim, the Director of Planning, Research and Forecasting, NEMA. We would also like to thank you, Madam, for coming here and talking to us on flooding in Nigeria. All right, and of course our own engineer Clement is there. Of course, he's a regular here when we're talking about flooding and movement of water during rainy season. So we thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for coming. All right, now let's get some foreign tidbits.
Russian authorities have reportedly detained General Sergei Surovikin, the deputy commander of Russia's military operations in Ukraine, amid a reported purge of military officials following the short-lived rebellion by Wagner mercenary forces. Surovikin, nicknamed General Armageddon by the Russian media for his reputed ruthlessness, is a veteran of Russia's wars in Chechnya and Syria, who has been decorated by the Russian President Vladimir Putin. Citing two sources close to Russia's defense ministry, the Russian language service of the Moscow Times reported on Wednesday that Surovikin was arrested due to what one of the unnamed sources said was choosing the Wagner chief's side during the uprising.
Yeah, of course, we're just having some chit-chat with our guests whom we signed off a moment ago. But that's it for us on Good Morning Nigeria today. Thank you for joining us. We hope you continue to enjoy your holidays. But tomorrow is work again, and we'll still be here. Same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Look after yourselves. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Kirian Umayo. We'll see you again tomorrow.